So there's a lot of videos on YouTube about narcissism. Most of them are negative, of course, and very few of them are directed at narcissists. But this is one that is. And when I say narcissist, I'm not strictly talking about people who have NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. I'm talking about people who have, maybe do have that, but also they could just have a certain degree of megalomania, people who are extraordinarily selfish, self absorbed, self obsessed, grandiose, people who have antisocial personality traits, people who are, very likely to put themselves before others, that sort of thing. Now, you might not technically qualify as narcissistic personality disorder, but you exhibit the trait of narcissism nonetheless. And in fact, most people do exhibit some narcissism. There's even a degree of narcissism that's considered by most healthcare professionals, mental health professionals, to be healthy. You know, someone who has no narcissism whatsoever is just a doormat. So it's good to have a little bit of selfishness, but obviously, if you are someone who identifies as a narcissist, and many narcissists apparently don't, um, but if you are self aware enough, then maybe this is a list for you. Because I have here 4 things that I think narcissists should know. 4 pieces, I guess, of advice for narcissists. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to title this, but something like that. So the first little piece of advice I want to give to you is do not use others to validate yourself. And this comes with some explanation and some caveats. There is a misconception about narcissists that they don't care about other people. But that's demonstrably not true, because if narcissists didn't care about other people, they wouldn't be so concerned with impressing other people. It's very important to the narcissist that other people think highly of them. And that simply wouldn't be the case if narcissists did not care about other people. Narcissists, in fact, in a lot of instances, care too much about other people because they're very concerned with other people's opinions. They're very concerned about being liked and respected and seen as great, and so on. But the thing that you as a narcissist need to recognize is that no amount of external validation is ever going to truly satisfy your ego. So I think you have to be, to some extent, self-sustaining. Because one of the traps I think narcissists fall into is that they become slaves to other people's opinions to some degree. Even the people that the narcissist may be toxically manipulating, the narcissist is obsessed with that person, obsessed with controlling that person, obsessed with keeping that person, obsessed with making that person behave in ways that the narcissist wants them to behave. And to think about the narcissist in terms that the narcissist controls. So, really, though, it's the narcissist that's at the mercy of that person. Because all that person has to do to defeat the narcissist, to thwart the narcissist, is just withdraw. To reject the control, to reject the manipulation, to reject the narcissist themselves. And the narcissist will be incredibly hurt by that. Because narcissist is at the mercy of that person. So if you are a narcissist, you need to realize that you're not going to get the feeling that you're looking for, the validation that you're looking for, by being a slave to other people's opinions of you. You have to be somewhat self-sustaining. The feeling that you're looking for is already something that resides within you. You just have to find it in yourself. Now, that doesn't mean you cannot want to impress other people, that you cannot want them to think you're great. But you can't allow yourself to need it. You see the difference? I think you do. You're very smart. That's why you're a narcissist. So, the second piece of advice I have for you is be useful, not controlling. Narcissists are known for being good at manipulating other people. And I think the reason for this is because narcissists are so hyper in tune with their own desperate need for validation that they see it in others. Because remember, everybody has some narcissism in them. And even the people who seemingly don't, there is a seed in there that you can water. And so really, even people who are not aware of their need for validation have it. But the narcissist, knowing themselves, knowing their own need for validation, is able to see it in other people. And even if it's just a tiny little seed, they can get that seed to grow a little bit. Most manipulation is really just a matter of positive and negative reinforcement. The same way you train a dog, you train a human being. And, don't think, by the way, if you are a narcissist, you're immune to that yourself. You're not. Remember what we just went over in the first lesson. The narcissist's deep need for the approval of other people. That makes the narcissist vulnerable. Even if you are not a vulnerable type narcissist and you're grandiose, the grandiosity really is just an overcompensation for the vulnerability. So, one thing we need to say about manipulation is that manipulation in and of itself is not a negative thing. Whenever you hear about manipulation in our culture, it's uniformly negative. But really, all human interactions contain an element of manipulation, whether they intend to or not. Not everyone is a Machiavellian schemer, but everyone is manipulative in their own way. A person who is constantly and relentlessly kind, they're doing that. Maybe that's because they genuinely feel good about being kind, but a positive benefit to their kindness is that other people view them in a very favorable way. And if something bad happens to them, other people are going to be more likely to want to help them than they are to want to help a curmudgeonly asshole that nobody likes. When an asshole is in a bad situation, people say, he fucking deserves it. When a kind person is in a bad situation, people band together to help them. Now, that doesn't mean the kind person is only being kind for that reason, but that is a benefit to it. And so, even if that kind person doesn't intend to be manipulative, they are being manipulative because their kindness got people to like them, and now those people are more likely to do things for them, especially now that they find themselves in an hour of need. Once again, I'm not saying that any of that is happening on a conscious level, although in some instances it definitely is. But I'm not saying in all instances it is, but that is still manipulation. But the narcissist, due to their underdeveloped sense of empathy, which we'll address in more in depth a little later, can often go too far with the manipulation and have the wrong goals in the manipulation. And they're too good at it. So the manipulated person can start to feel resentful as their will becomes so subverted, so subservient to the narcissist, and they realize, I am not doing anything that I want to do. I am not pursuing any of my dreams, my goals, my ambitions. I'm not doing any of the stuff that would make me happy. I am living my life entirely for this other person, and that makes them resentful. And the last thing a narcissist really wants is to be resented. Because remember, once again, you want that person to have a positive opinion of you. So, what's the solution? Now, telling a narcissist not to manipulate people is unreasonable. It's like telling a hummingbird not to fly. But you have to be aware of the goals of your manipulation. Don't simply manipulate out of the fear of losing someone. Don't manipulate out of the fear of them going against you or the fear of losing control of them, because you should not want to control them, because controlling them only leads to them once again, resenting you. So you need to use your manipulation skill set to be helpful and to be useful. Useful. That's the most important thing. If a person feels bad, you use your manipulation not to control them, not to take advantage of their emotions. You use your manipulation to repair them. They feel bad, you manipulate them into feeling good. Let's say that that person wants to do something, but they're scared. They want to, for example, I don't know, ask for the big promotion at work, but they're scared to go to their boss and say so. You use your powers of manipulation to build them up and to build up their courage so that they can go talk to their boss. And if they don't get the promotion and they feel dejected, you console them. And that's how you use your powers of manipulation to build them up, to help them, to become indispensable and useful to them. That is how you use that. You don't use it to control people. And why not? Because, once again, there's a couple reasons. First of all, you don't want them to resent you, as we already talked about, but you also have to recognize that when it comes to exerting your will, you are not on the same level as they are. You are like Mike Tyson, and they're like a 98-pound weakling. Your will is big and strong, and you have all these tools that are naturally in your head about how to exert it. So you have to be very cognizant of that. Just like, we would look upon a big tough guy who goes and picks on small, weak guys. We would think that guy is a piece of shit. Why doesn't he pick on someone his own size? Well, when it comes to the exertion of your will, it's the same thing. If you have someone who maybe their will is strong, but their ability to achieve it is bad, or maybe their will is weak, it doesn't matter. The fact is they're in a different weight class than you are. So using your powers of will exertion and manipulation to just thwart them at every turn and control them, on top of making them resentful and hateful towards you, which is, once again, something you do not want, it's also just, it's the same as a big tough guy picking on a weak guy. It's the same as, a world champion ping pong player beating someone who's never even picked up a ping pong paddle, right? You're much better at it than they are. And thwarting them and defeating them, it should give you no thrill whatsoever. And, you need to be very cognizant of the weight class that you're in and not do that kind of shit because of, multiple reasons. The third lesson I want to give to you, third piece of advice anyway, is to learn intellectual empathy. Narcissists experience different levels of empathy, but usually they're kind of deficient in it. Most narcissists become pretty good at superficial charm. But a lot of times they struggle with deeper human relationships, deeper human connections. And that's primarily because they struggle with empathy. And the tragedy is that many narcissists want those deeper human connections. They want this deeper sort of understanding, simpatico thing with other people. But it's hard to get there because of this empathy deficiency. So it's important that you as a narcissist understand empathy. Even if you don't experience it or only experience it to a limited degree or only experience it in limited circumstances, it's important that you understand it enough intellectually that you can put forth the effort to factor it into your thinking. And it's going to be an effort, but you're going to have to kind of remember that in situations. And it does get easier with practice. The benefits of this are that you can reach those deeper levels of connection, and thus you can enjoy deeper levels of affinity and camaraderie and love and those things. And you're going to find that those deeper human connections offer a lot more than the superficial, validations of like just the mob or some dude. It doesn't matter. But you do have to overcome some things. Just like a person with bad legs might need a wheelchair. You need the wheelchair of intellectual empathy, where you may be lacking in genuine empathy. And, sometimes over time, as you intellectually begin to understand it, you can even kind of muster it to some degree on a deeper level. You can even start to feel it a little bit. And, a lot of times I think that narcissists are it's not like they don't have empathy. It's just that there's like a little bit of a disconnect between them and their own empathy. Maybe some sort of, pathway somewhere is eroded or degraded and it doesn't quite reach the conscious mind a lot of the time, but it's there beneath the surface. But that's just a theory. But anyway, I'm going to get to the fourth piece of advice for you. Have a sense of humor about yourself. This can be hard for some narcissists. It's hard to have that self defacing sort of humor. But you need to realize that no matter how great you think you are, on some level, once again on an intellectual level, you need to recognize that you're still just pretty much a dumb hairless ape on a rock in space, right? So, you need to ultimately see that the grandiose opinion that you have of yourself is ultimately just a delusion. That doesn't mean you need to let it go, because you probably can't. You're probably incapable of that. You can try, but you're probably not going to be able to do it. But what you can do is recognize that it is ultimately an absurd notion. It's an absurd notion that you, somehow, of all the hairless apes on this fucking rock, are the best hairless ape on the rock. And even if that was true, in the grand scheme of things, so fucking what? Right? So, that's probably the closest thing that a narcissist can achieve to humility. That's as good as it gets. So, you can't stop thinking you're great, but you can be aware that your concept of your own greatness is ultimately a silly thing. And that, I think, is about, like I said, about as close to humility as you can get. So anyway, let me know if these tips were helpful to you. And if you're a non-narcissist out there, let me know what you thought as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.